Brought to you by Alman Auctions, the worldwide leader in antique tractor auctions.
80 and not too long ago, we visited the hallowed ground at Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. But we weren't here to visit the legendary Civil War battlefield this time. We were here to check out a classic farm tractor with a history unlike any other.
When Ike was presented with this tractor, the Farm Bureau and the press were there, and they put the mic up to Ike's mouth so he could comment on it, what he thought of it. And he said, look, a radio and a cigarette lighter, what'll be next? That was his big thing. He didn't ask how many horsepower it had or any features it had. But that cigarette lighter was the first one in Pennsylvania, and the radio was the first one in Pennsylvania to be put in a tractor. So they put it on special for Ike.
Yes, sir, Gettysburg's own Stan Wolf is driving a classic cockshut 40 Blackhawk tractor. That is a working piece of presidential memorabilia. Back in 1955, President Dwight D. Eisenhower, better known as Ike, was the first owner of the Blackhawk.
I had followed the tractor from day one. When they give it to Ike, there was a lot of publicity, and I followed the story the whole way through. Early on, I worked for Farm Bureau, which was the company that give it to him. So I had a great interest in the tractor. Ike's used it for general farming. Their main crops were corn, wheat, milo, and hay, and that was the main crops. So that's what this tractor was used for, his lead tractor. Ike never really drove it. He checked on the boys that drove it, but Ike really never drove it. He had a great interest in farming, and he kept after the hired help, but he never actually drove it.
Ike may never have driven the six-cylinder Blackhawk, but Stan says the general grew up on a Kansas farm and appreciated the tractor's many handy, modern features.
Well, Ike was very appreciative of it. He was very proud of it, and anytime there was any dignitaries came, he oftentimes would want to show it and share the tractor with the people that came. He was real proud of it, real proud of it. I would say the best thing about Blackhawk, it's built. It's very strong. Every piece you look at is heavier than any other tractor that we know of. They weren't the most popular tractor because they were not pushed by dealers, but they certainly were a good, strong tractor. This tractor rides very, very smooth. It's got 8 gears, where most tractors at this time only had 4. It's live power takeoff. You very seldom ever have to look back. It's a very easy driver, 55 horses. And in Adams County, where we lived, that was a big tractor. The biggest one in Pennsylvania.
Being the Eisenhower and classic tractor fan he is, Stan always had his eye on the Blackhawk, and in the mid-1980s, this presidential machine came up for an auction just 30 miles from Stan's place.
Normally, when I buy a tractor, I just buy it and come home and tell my wife we bought a tractor.
He's been my husband for 60 years, and, you know, I just have to go along with it. And I feel there's worse things he could be doing.
And up until that point, she never complained about me buying tractors. And when this one was sold, I went down the night before it was sold, and I said, I won't be able to buy this one. It's going to bring too much money. It's too much interest in it. The government wants it back, and I just know I won't be able to buy it.
He was sort of drooling, and we went to look at it the night before the sale, and he was all over it, and I took pictures of him on it, and I said, you know, this will be to remember. And then when he left the next morning, I said, don't you come home without that tractor.
She wanted me to have the Blackhawk. So I took her advice, and I bought it at public sale. And she encouraged me to do it, and I did.
Thank goodness she did. It has been the most cherished item in Stan's collection ever since. But he does have other classic tractors, cars, and even another unique piece of Eisenhower memorabilia.
This was Ike's golf cart. The Cushman Motor Company gave it to Ike in 1955 as a present. And it was quite a vehicle because in those days, They just didn't have golf carts. But this one was special made, and they made more of them later, but this was made for Ike. The worst problem they had was Ike would get in that little golf cart there and go over the farm. He liked his cattle. He would open up the gate and go out in the pastures, and Secret Servicemen were just driven crazy that they were to guard him, and he was nowhere to be found except out in the pasture.
The Cushman even had a back seat for Secret Servicemen to ride along and a secret button to call for help. Now, with 2 pieces of presidential history in his collection, Stan and his daughter Audrey have co-written a book titled Ike, Gettysburg's Gentleman Farmer.
There's been so much written about Eisenhower, but never much about the farm. So I wrote a book. My daughter and I wrote a book, and we tell everything from the very beginning of Ike to the very end. Going through his college day, his marriage, and everything at the farm, about the neighbors, and how he liked to farm, and why he liked to farm.
No doubt, Stan's a guy who loves to preserve and share history, and even his home place, where he keeps and shows his tractors, has a story behind it.
General Longstreet had his headquarters down here at the edge of this strip where I was showing this tractor, and he left his troops, set up camp here. Going back to the Civil War, there's a lot of things that happened right here, and that should not be forgotten.
Now you know, this Pennsylvania place is connected not only to Civil War times, but also to a fine presidential farm tractor that a proud historian is preserving for all to see. And if you ever want to check Ike's tractor out for yourself, why not look the Wolfs up? You'll find them at their Gettysburg address.